Hello everybody, I'm Melissa from Meditative Astrology, and today I'm here to talk with you of the astrology of August 3rd through August 9th. We have a few things to talk about this week, including the full moon in the sign of Aquarius, Mars moves into the sign of Libra, so we're going to get into all of that. Before we do, I want to give you an invitation to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We don't want you to miss anything that we have going on here, like these weekly videos or the live meditations that we have streamed to YouTube, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday nights. That is every single week, and if you give us a follow or a like on Facebook, then you'll see other updates as well as our weekly intention, which plays right into the astrological video as well as the astrological meditation that we have. And really, it's a nice, well-rounded way to create a relationship and work with the energies that are around us and really bring it into your own personal sphere. So subscribe so that way you don't miss anything, and thank you, because all of your interaction helps us greatly. So much gratitude to each and every one of you. So with that being said, let's get right into the week here. We're going to start out this week by following the moon around, similar to last week if you watched last week's video, but we have some important things to look at and talk about here. So we start out Sunday, August 3rd with the moon in the sign of Scorpio, but it's going to move into the sign of Sagittarius around 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Time zones may be different depending on where you are, so always Eastern time zones here on these videos. So really the moon's going to be in the sign of Sagittarius all day. It's going to make an opposition to Uranus just a couple hours after that. So that Sagittarius moon is going to take us right into Monday, August 4th. It's going to square the nodes of the moon. That could be a little bit of a pinging moment for some people since the moon acts as a trigger. So that could be a little lightning energy Monday evening coming through here for some of us. Tuesday, August 5th, moon starts in the sign of Sag, and then it moves into the sign of Capricorn, about 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So kind of split half and half, Sag day and Cap day here. And then as soon as it moves into, once it moves into the sign of Capricorn, we're going to get squares to those Aries planets, Neptune and Saturn, and we're going to get a square to Mars too. So that could be some interesting moments for some people here as well. If we move forward into Wednesday, August 6th, this is where our action starts. The moon's going to be in the sign of Capricorn here, making some oppositions to the Cancer planets. But Mars is going to ingress into the sign of Libra about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So Mars in the sign of Libra is in the opposite place of Aries, which is the domicile or the ruling sign of Mars. It's the place that Mars is most comfortable, and it's very much like Mars. You can find something similar in the sign of Scorpio, which is the other sign that Mars rules. So when a planet is opposite the place where it's most comfortable, where it rules, where it's able to have its own agency and act in the way that it likes based on its environment and the tools that are available to us, we find it in the place farthest away from that. That is the place of what is traditionally called detriment. So that is traditionally considered to be a more difficult place for the planet. Really what that means is that Mars is not able to act very Mars-like in the sign of Libra. So there's a tension for Mars here. And the tension in this air sign is in the atmosphere of mental balance. It's a Venus-ruled sign. So harmony, balance, cohesion, very much at play in the sign of Libra. Mars and Venus are natural opposites. We have the quintessential feminine energy and the quintessential masculine energy. So they are opposites within their own right. And we see that within the opposition of the Mars ruled planet, and Libra, the Venus ruled planet here as well. You know, Mars, so where Venus wants to create cohesion, it wants balance, it wants things to be melded together, it wants things to work together, right? It wants unity. Mars would much rather, or at least it's willing to go on its own when it needs to or wants to. So think about Aries, think about Scorpio. Those are the signs of Mars. Think about Capricorn, which is the place where Mars is exalted, climbing that hill, going out on its own. Scorpio can very much be a loner or within its own space and its own emotional energy. Aries is a very initiatory and starting out on its own, that singular path, and having its own autonomy, its own authority coming through here. So that's the difference between Mars in the place of Libra, where it is. Mars is in the place of unity, the place of balance, where Mars represents separation and movement and letting things go or cutting things off, where Venus in Libra, it's the sign of the scales. It wants the scales, it wants justice, it wants balance. So we may, if Mars represents our motivations and our determinations and the things that make us move, the things that motivate us, we may be motivated to find balance. We may get frustrated in the process. Mars can be a little aggressive, a little bit brash. There may even be a little bit of passive-aggressive energy here. But overall, there may be movement in the Libra house of your birth chart here. And any planets that you have in the sign of Libra, or really any cardinal signs, those planets are going to have the strongest aspects. So you can take a look at your own chart, or if you would like to do a reading, then you can head over to the website and we can take a look at that together here. So we have the ingress here coming through on Wednesday. If we move into Thursday, Thursday, August 7th, that Cap moon is going to take us right into the day, and through most of the day, the moon's going to move into the sign of Aquarius just after 9 p.m. Eastern time. This is going to set us up for our full moon that we have in the sign of Aquarius coming through on Saturday. Moving through Friday, again following the moon around here, Friday, August 9th, the moon in the sign of Aquarius. It's going to make a conjunction to Pluto early in the morning, overnight for most of us, and we have that incoming full moon coming through here. So that is the full moon energy that is building towards the end of the week here. If we move forward into Saturday, August 9th, this is where we get the full moon in the sign of Aquarius. The full moon comes through at 16 degrees, 59 minutes. So it comes through at the last minute of the 16th degree. I feel like that's key, around 3:53 a.m. Eastern time. So for many of us, it will be early in the morning, or it'll be coming through the night while some of us are sleeping. At least in this neck of the woods here. So we have a few different things to talk about here with the full moon. First of all, there's a finality here within the full moon, right? The last minute of the 16th degree. So just before, it's the last minute before moving to the 7th degree. So this is a subtle endings and beginning note that we have here. There's a symbolism of things coming to a culmination. There's things coming to a height and coming to an ending, right? You also have that symbolism just within the full moon itself. So the full moon is a culmination of the lunar cycle, right? The seeds are planted at the new moon. The moon is dark. It slowly begins to grow in a luminosity. So the moon starts to get brighter, and then it's at 100% brightness at the full moon. So it is at its peak of its lunar cycle. It's as bright as it's going to get. And just as quickly as it reaches that peak, it slowly starts to drift away and slowly starts to fall away. Light begins to lose. We reap what has been sown throughout the lunar cycle, and then we start to let go. We start to make way for the next path, maybe let go, heal of anything that we need to, and then move forward to the next lunar cycle here. So we have this symbolism, a couple different ways of the signification of this finality, of things coming to a height and then maybe ending and falling away here. We have that through the full moon significations as well as the degree marker here. So finalities are built into this full lunar cycle. They're built into this full moon, but they were also built into the new moon with that new moon in Leo that was opposite Pluto in Aquarius. We just talked about the Mercury Cazimi coming through here last week. So that is another completion and finality. So we have lots of endings and beginnings that are coming up around here. And it feels like it could be very paradigm or mentally shifting because we have it on so many levels. I said that a few weeks ago that I felt like this lunar cycle was going to be pretty key, pretty important for a few people. There's a Mars focus within this chart and within the full moon here. So if we go ahead and put up the chart here, this is set to 3:54 a.m. and you can see the full moon across the Aries Aquarius axis here. So if you look across the second house and the 8th house here, you'll see that full moon coming in. Notice that we have Mars at 1 degree of Libra. We just talked about how it entered the sign of Libra. And from the sign of Libra, it is opposing Saturn and Neptune. It is trining Uranus in the sign of Gemini. And This energy is coming through here just as, let's see, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's also interacting with Pluto, trining Pluto at the same time. So we have a grand air trine here between Uranus, Pluto, and Mars. Meanwhile, Mars is interacting with those planets that are in the sign of Aries, right? So we have all of these slow-moving planets that are activated here, right down through Saturn. So Pluto is activated during the full moon. Uranus is activated during the full moon. Neptune is activated during the full moon. Those are our outer planets. And then we also have Saturn that is aspected and activated during this full moon. When you have that many slow-moving planets that are very thematic, we can have paradigm and era shifting energy coming through here. Things really may feel like they are shifting on a thematic level for a lot of us in many different ways. So let's kind of look at it a little bit individually and break it down here. So if we have Mars opposing Saturn and Neptune, I talked about this in last week's video. We talked about Venus interacting with these two planets. When you have Saturn and Neptune both being interacted, you have realities and you have non-realities. You have truths and you have non-truths. You have the reality and you have the card hold facts, and you have illusions. So you have the illusions and things that maybe are not quite as they appear, but then you also could have disillusionment too. You could take off the rose-colored glasses. Saturn is the reality checker. Meanwhile, Neptune is the planet that allows things to flow, allows things to grow, allows things to just kind of flow into the form that they are, right? There's a lot of intuitive energy in the sign of, or in the planet of Neptune here. So Mars opposing Saturn can be very serious, very focused, very dialed in. There can be a release here. There could be a death and rebirth of some kind. There can be a letting go and a letting things fall away. Think about how after that full moon, we start to reap what has been sown, but then the cycle starts to fall away. So it's similar to like a plant that grows and the fruit bears on it, and then we pick the fruit, and then that plant has served its purpose, so then it starts to wither and it starts to fall away, and then it decomposes into the ground to be reborn into something else. This is just another level of this rebirth, new cycles, things coming in to work in a different way, however you want to call this cycle changing thing that we have showing up many, many different ways throughout this lunar cycle. That release, that death. You know, Saturn represents death. It represents old age. It represents things falling away from us. Mars severs, cuts, releases things. So there can be some precision, there can be some focus, but when we focus on like one specific thing, the other things fall away. We cut them out of our view, right? We cut them out of our mind and out of our sphere. We put our blinders on and we focus on one thing. Mars opposing Neptune can bring in a little bit more fluidness here. So balance versus separation, delusion, fantasy versus disillusion, reality. That feels like when Neptune comes into play, that's another level of it that is coming through. So it's what is real, what is not real, am I going in the right direction, am I not going in the right direction? There can be a little bit of push and pull here. There's fighting power with Neptune in the sign of Aries. Mars is the warrior planet. It rules Aries, right? So there could be some fighting power, there can be some strength, there could be the desire to fight for what you believe in here with Neptune. There could almost be a martyr type energy. So trying to find some sort of balance, trying to find some sort of creative energy, but also separating and staying away from things when we need to here. Acting irrationally or outside of the normal scope is not out of the realm of possibility here. Sometimes that can be helpful. Sometimes we act rash and it's not like all that great, right? But sometimes when we act out of our normal scope, it's refreshing and it's something different. And the trine that we have to Uranus here can play into that acting out of the normal scope. That could be helpful or maybe not quite so helpful depending on how it works. So Mars trines Uranus, these two planets are working together. So liberation, freedom, movement, mental brilliance, and agility. So they're both in air signs. Lots of communication. They're very communicative signs in the air signs. The ability to move, to visibly move differently than the way we've appeared before. I'm thinking about visibility because of the fire sign energy that we have here through the sign of Aries. Fire signs can be loud, they can be extroverted, and they can be really visible here. So Mars can be very loud. However, it's in the sign of Libra. So it has that push and pull tension. Should I do something different? Should I stay within the way that I have been? Do I keep things status quo, or do I move forward? Uranus in the sign of Gemini is much more curious and much more willing to step outside of the box and just try something and see how it works, where Libra may be a little bit hesitant, like, you know, I don't know this, I know that this way works, so do we really need to try another way? Where Gemini, Uranus and Gemini is more like, but what if we tried this other way and it was different, better, something, I don't know, whatever the thing may be here. The square to Pluto. Death and rebirth, transformation, right? So we have this other endings and beginnings aspect that we have going on here. So Pluto was aspected at the new moon as well as aspected at the full moon here. So there is that level of things coming up from the depths, things bubbling up, maybe things that are a little bit difficult to work with sometimes, but they see us in a different way on the other side. They see us through to something a little bit different, right? Even if there is some difficult energy that we have coming through, that we have to get through with it. So, yeah, this whole lunar cycle feels like it could be very cathartic for some people. It feels like there could be reaching in, discovering things, uncovering things, and then mentally processing those things. We just went through the Mercury Kazim, moved into the morning star phase, right? Where it's going to be curious and looking into doing something new, something different here. And then we have that mental aspect of it, but then we have a lot of fire energy. We have a lot of Mars energy going on here. So taking the actions, moving within it, not only just thinking about it, but also moving within that way as well. And that's very much within the Leo lunar cycle acting. Yeah, very, very right on point for that there. So yeah, this full moon is just as packed as the new moon was. This lunar cycle is probably an eventful one for some people, but it can be very transformational. When I say transformational, you know, it's not like the fairy godmother who comes and waves her wand on Cinderella all the time and like she just instantly like sparkles and she turns into somebody wearing this beautiful gown, but it could be a little bit more like the rebirth of the phoenix. The phoenix has to burn in order to be reborn from the ashes, right? So there's that burning, there's that separation, there's that difficult process that it has to go through first. That's more the Pluto transformation that could be potentially coming through here in different ways. That doesn't mean that we have to physically or metaphysically or metaphorically burn either. It could just mean that we're reaching down into the depths in some kind here. So yeah, that is what we have for this week. We end on a bang, start out slow, and then end on a bang with the full moon here. So I hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed this video. I hope that it has been helpful for you, and I hope that I see you back here next week. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope that this full moon treats you very, very well. Once more, I want to give you an invitation to join us for our Sunday night meditations, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, streamed right here to YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you there, as well as next week back here for a weekly video. Everybody take care, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.